Hey everyone, Tony Winston here, Jazz Piano College. I'm doing a series on the song It Could Happen to You. And in my latest installment, I was talking about improv and just using major scales and the blues scale. And I really think this is a good way to start improvising before you get to the diminished scale, the altered scale, the Lydian dominant scale, the Locrian sharp 2 scale, some of those more exotic scales. Most people can kind of feel their way through a major scale. So it's important to use that. You can use it on major chords. You can use that same scale on a D minor chord. And that's called Dorian mode, but we don't even have to talk about modes yet. It's not nearly as important as just being able to find a good major scale that works on a chord or a couple of chords, and then use some blues scale in there to give it some authenticity. Though I will say that modern jazz is starting to move away from using the blues influence, and just like classical music moved away from doing 2-5-1s, Debussy did a lot of stuff with it, like whole tone scales, which have nothing to do with 2-5-1s. So we're going to take Alone together, and we're going to look at some little parts of the blues scale that we can use, and also some major scales. So we're in D minor. All right, that's a good blues scale. And the first 4 notes really give the blues scale its signature sound. It's that flat 5 up there. Up here, that's just typical kind of stuff you'd play on a dominant chord. But the blues scale is what gives some of jazz improvisations a real feeling of the jazz and of blues. So let's use D blues scale. Okay, keep the chords kind of simple down here, just root position chords mostly. Now, think about this little series of notes: a minor third, a major second, and a minor second. You can do this in other keys on other chords and it'll sound pretty good. Listen to E minor 7 flat 5. Right? I mean, if you're going to make a scale for this chord, it would have those notes from the E minor blues scale. So back to D minor. All right, so these are just some melodic ideas that might help you get started. Let's do the same thing up on A minor 7 flat 5. And then let's use the G blues scale to end our 2-5-1 there. A, D, G. Part of learning to improvise over a set of chords is how do you blend your scales together and make one scale flow into another scale. I mean, you don't want to just always do, I'm on D, so, and then I have to do something new on E, and then something new on A. You want to blend the scales together. So like you're using D blues scale, and then maybe another scale here. Blend the scales together. Easier said than done. And if you have to chop everything up into just little pieces, that's fine too. You're training your ear, you're learning what all those notes sound like, and later on you can put it all together. All right, we were up on A minor 7, flat 5, and then going to the G blues scale. Now, when we get to B minor and E, that's a 2-5-1 going to A major. It doesn't go to A major, but it could be a 2-5-1 that would lead to A major, and A major is the right scale to play, or one of the correct scales you could play over this 2-5-1. Let's try it. That sounds right, and E7, and then G minor. By using the A, you get a real surprise there, which is kind of nice. So let's see what we can do here. If we're doing eighth notes, we can only play 8 notes in that measure. So Now we have a 2-5-1 in F. Which major scale would work on those three chords? G minor, C7, and F. What major scale works? F major. All right. And you can put little extra notes in to make it come out better. Like that. But you don't have to, because it's kind of nice to end before the beat there and give it a little rhythm. From F7 to D major. And now the D major scale works. I can't think of a blues scale that's going to work in there. Maybe that, but it doesn't sound like the blues. All right, I'm going to give you a little demonstration. I'll start with the bridge, actually, and do that little piece of the blues scale. And then the G minor blues scale. Now I'll do the same thing here. All right, that's a G minor blues scale, part of it. And then I'll go to F blues scale. Doesn't really sound that great there, so I'll do F major scale there. And here. Okay, now if you're looking for something a little more advanced to play, that comes from the G minor melodic ascending scale. A7. That comes from the B flat minor melodic ascending scale. And D minor. That comes from the D minor melodic ascending scale. And interestingly enough, even the minor melodic scale has a little bit of like the B blues scale. So those are just nice choice of notes to use. There's so many other things that advanced improvisers use when they improvise, things like enclosures, stuff like that. Kind of arpeggios on interesting parts of the chord. Like if you took a D minor 6, you could do like an E minor arpeggio on that. So on something like an E minor 7 flat 5, you could pull little shapes like that out of it and do arpeggios with those. Just those three notes, that's all. A, and then D minor. What else do improvisers like to do? Well, these are just single lines. Of course, you could, do some harmonies. Stuff like that. And then there's all these little kind of patterns, like staircase patterns, stair step. And you have to know the scales really well to, to be able to bounce around like that on them. So I know this scale pretty well. It's the G minor melodic ascending. So, and then this one's A minor, I just call it A altered, but it's a B flat minor melodic ascending. Or 3-note patterns. I don't know if that was right, but some other kind of cool things is you can look for other chords that are actually in there, a B flat minor and a C major. But like I've said, if you're a more beginning or intermediate player, try to master the stuff that you know, the major scales, the blues scales, maybe the Dorian mode, things like that. Try to really work on that stuff and get to where you sound fluid, or fluent, I should say. So you sound fluent using those scales, because if you can't make a decent melody out of the major scale, you're going to have a tough time with the diminished scale. So, and like I've also said before, please just learn a lot of jazz standards, the 25 top ones, Autumn Leaves, Blue Bossa, Bye Bye Blackbird. I don't know if that one's so standard anymore. Green Dolphin Street, maybe some more modern ones like Dolphin Dance. If you learn a lot of those melodies, you'll learn a lot of how to improvise on a set of chords. That's what melodies are. They're just somebody's improvisation on a harmonic set of chords. That's all I got. Okay, see you again soon. Thanks for all your support on Patreon, Venmo, and PayPal. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you again soon.